The US President Donald Trump has made a number of, at best controversial, and at worst outright false and misleading statements about Ukraine and its president, Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Here we look at these claims.
Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal for Ukraine.
So here are the facts. First, let's not forget that Russia originally attacked Ukraine in 2014. Second, Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 22 was unprovoked and widely condemned by international organizations as an act of aggression. In the lead-up to Russia's invasion of Ukraine on the 24th February of 2022, Zelenskyy repeatedly offered to meet Vladimir Putin. 5 days before Russian troops rolled into Ukraine, he made an impassioned speech at the Munich Security Conference, asking to talk.
We have been passing on to different world leaders and directly to Russian federations that we are ready to sit down and speak.
To deter Moscow from launching the invasion, the US declassified and released intelligence reports exposing Russia's plans to attack, warning that harsh economic sanctions would follow if the Kremlin proceeded with the invasion. In the days and weeks after the invasion, Ukrainian and Russian negotiators held several rounds of talks in Belarus and Turkey. But Russia's demands were maximalist, including the partial demilitarization of Ukraine, which would have in effect crippled the country's ability to defend itself in the future. The former UK's Defence Secretary, Ben Wallace, put it more bluntly when he described Trump's claims as being straight out of the Kremlin talking points.
Well, we have a situation where we haven't had elections in Ukraine, where we have martial law, or essentially martial law in Ukraine, where the leader in Ukraine, I mean, I hate to say it, but he's down at 4% approval rating.
While Zelenskyy's popularity has declined since the start of the full-scale invasion, a February poll by the Kiev International Institute of Sociology found that 57% of Ukrainians trusted the president, up from 52% in December. Polls indicate that most Ukrainians, as well as politicians critical of Zelenskyy, believe that now is not the right time for elections.
They have to pay, they have to find out where is the money going to. We have, I believe President Zelenskyy said last week that he doesn't know where half of the money is that we gave him. Well, we gave them, I believe, $350 billion.
On this, there are many numbers swirling around with different methodologies used to calculate individual contributions by different countries. But the most authoritative source and support tracker run by the Kiel Institute for the World Economy shows that Europe, counted as the sum of the EU and individual member states, has actually allocated over 132 billion euros, ahead of 114 billion euros from the US. It has also committed a further 115 billion, according to the tracker. Apart from EU institutions, Germany and the UK are the largest national contributors, respectively third and fourth. The US comes first, but it's only because, well, it's not a union of 27 countries. However, the largest contributions as a percentage of GDP were made by Estonia, Denmark, Lithuania, Latvia, Finland, Sweden and Poland. Now, it's not that straightforward to say who contributes most, also because it depends on what you count as aid. Ben Wallace called Trump out on this in a post on X, calling his comments genuine fake news. And in fact, he said Europe has given more than the US. Wallace said a large proportion of aid has actually been spent by donor nations on their own replacements of gifted kit. So some large sums are just spent. The US, for example, has sent only $100 billion of the $175 billion as direct aid to Ukraine and spent at least $25 billion on its own replenishment, he said.
So many of the cities, they haven't done it in Kiev because I guess they don't want to shoot too many rockets in there. They've done it 20%, but they haven't done it 100%. If they wanted to do it 100%, it would probably happen very quickly.
Russia has unleashed the full force of its military, including missiles and long-range artillery on Ukrainian cities, causing widespread destruction, particularly in the east. There's no indication whatsoever that Russia has been stockpiling weapons or holding back its military capabilities in this fight.
Russia wants to do something. They want to stop the savage barbarianism. What's going on over there?
Russian officials, including President Vladimir Putin, have repeatedly stated they will not halt fighting in Ukraine until all of Moscow's objectives are met, whether through diplomacy or military force. Putin has previously demanded the demilitarization of Ukraine and has said he wants full control of 4 eastern and southern Ukrainian regions.
Эти условия очень простые. Украинские войска должны быть полностью выведены из Донецкой, Луганской народных республик, Херсонской и Запорожской областей.
Intelligence from the US and close allies, cited in US media, suggested that Putin still wants to control all of Ukraine, according to 4 Western intelligence officials and 2 US officials briefed on the talks. Since this speech, Zelenskyy has said that Trump was caught in a Russian misinformation bubble. Now, you will know he didn't like it. Trump called him
a dictator without elections,
referring to the fact that Zelenskyy's 5-year term in office was due to come to an end in 2024, but elections were suspended because Ukraine has been under martial law since the war began in 2022. These martial laws were drafted in 2015, shortly after Russia annexed Crimea and way before Zelenskyy was elected president in 2019. In the elections, he won 73% of the vote in the second round runoff in an election which independent observers called competitive, with fundamental freedoms generally respected. The British Prime Minister Keir Starmer called Zelenskyy after Trump's remarks and told him that it was perfectly reasonable for Ukraine to not hold elections during wartime, as the UK did during the Second World War. While Zelenskyy himself has vowed to hold a new election once the conflict ends, he has yet to confirm if he even intends to stand. Where this war of words and extreme rhetoric is going is so far unclear, but one thing is for certain.
They're no longer dealing with the same United States as they were dealing with a few months ago.